Okay, again, the mention of the skull. Casey Anthony burst into tears, and that's, let's face it, if you're the defense, you want to see some emotion from your client because you know the jury's going to glance over at that point. Let's bring in our criminal defense attorney, Keith Murray. Keith, let's talk about that. Again, that's the signature moment of the morning. Casey Anthony's reaction as her little daughter's skull is shown, her remains are shown. Talk about that. And do you instruct a client on how to or not to react? Do you just let it happen?
No, well, to an extent, you instruct a client. I mean, we always say, don't react when the verdict comes, whether it's for us or against us. There are certain things that are going to happen spontaneously in a courtroom that you're not going to be ready for, and I think this may have been one of those things. They may not have predicted that she was going to start sobbing when these pictures came up, but certainly you always tell your clients to kind of, maintain an even strain as much as possible, during the court proceedings.
Okay, there's some of the reaction there. She did break into tears. How much does the jury watch that? And how far could that go in deciding this case? Her reactions, is she watching pictures like that?
Well, the question is she crying because she got caught? Is she crying because her daughter's dead? I mean, we have no idea what's really going on in her head. We don't know why she's crying. It could be out of genuine sympathy. It could be out of remorse. It could be out of regret. It could be, she thinks she didn't do anything. I mean, there's no telling. But it's certainly, a jury's going to look at that, and some jurors may see it softening her, and some jurors may see it as hypocritical. There's just no way of going what's going through people's heads. It's something like that. Okay,
as the prosecution goes through this methodically, we were listening, Jose Baez, trying to go after, okay, how was the evidence handled, even making mention of some of the investigators who came onto the scene. They had boots on, make it sound like they were, just these brutes that were trampling evidence. Is that what he has to do? Is that the picture he's trying to paint for a jury?
It's certainly going to help him paint the picture that there may have been evidence there that implicated somebody other than his client. I mean, there's specific methodologies for engaging and searching a crime scene. There's a grid methodology, there's a spiral methodology, and the police have to follow one methodology or the other. Just having a bunch of guys randomly tromping through a crime scene, it does implicate the state's case a little bit if that's what was going on.
Okay, so how far does the prosecution have to go to try and explain that away if they catch a hint of that wait a minute, this evidence may have been not handled as delicately as it should have?
They'll probably bring in the crime scene investigators themselves, and then they're going to talk very methodically about how they removed the remains, how they searched the area, did they get down on their hands and knees and pick through the leaves, how they entered the area, how they walked out of the area. I mean, there's certainly going to be a little bit of attempt to I hate it when I can't remember the word, resurrect that's not the word.
It's all right, Counselor.
Rehabilitate the witnesses. Rehabilitate, that's the one I'm looking for. Yeah, rehabilitate that testimony.
Okay, and real quick, Roy Kronk, he is the guy who discovers the remains, yet he's not called to the stand at this point. Does the jury think, wait a minute, he's the key guy here, why are we not hearing from him?
At this point, they may not be wondering that because he was on the 911 tape. He's not necessary to the state's case. And usually when you have something that you know is going to hurt you, you try to put it on, and the quote is take the sting out of it because you don't want the other side to put something on making it look like you were playing hide the ball with the jury. So Jose Baez is probably going to put this guy on and bring up the fact that he tried to get police there 3 times prior back in September. There may be a little shadiness in his own history that Jose Baez is going to try to bring out. I remember somebody said something about him trying to get financial gain out of this. So it's going to be interesting. I'm certain the defense is going to try to get him on the stand.
Yeah, Jose Baez, even in opening statements, mentioned Roy Kronk as a man, I believe the term was morally bankrupt, and his calls that he made 3 calls in August 11, 12, and 13. And yeah, that leaves some questions in a jury, what that was all about. Speaking of criminal defense attorney Keith Murray. Keith, welcome back. So, well, let's hit on that. We just heard Lee Anthony lay out one of his sister's lies once again. How's that important? I mean, we've heard her lie pretty much throughout this trial. Here's another lie. What's the significance?
Yeah, I think the significance here is it's not just a lie in general. It's a lie about how her daughter went missing. She's blamed the father for this, that we heard that in the defense opening statements. Now we hear another story coming through her brother that she told someone that Zanny the nanny took the kid away. It certainly doesn't help her having multiple versions of how her daughter was taken away from her.
Let's get to some of the more emotional moments from court, and you were just watching a little bit of it there. Casey Anthony reacting to photos of her little girl, the skull of little Caylee Anthony, and also Jose Baez trying to chip away at some of that evidence there. Just your take on that exchange, and obviously there again the emotions from Casey Anthony.
Sure. I mean, the jurors are probably looking over at her. And again, you know, it's good that she's showing some emotion. It's good that she's restrained. You know, how much stock the jurors are going to put in this little bit of sadness she's showing here, how much it's going to humanize her to them. You know, you can only tell by asking the jurors, but it's certainly, it's going to make her a little softer. She's been in there, she's been kind of hard throughout the proceedings, sitting there kind of rigid and emotionless. So I think this is a good moment for the defense. I mean, it certainly doesn't make their case. No. But yeah, every little bit helps. I mean, they're trying to chip away at something.
Keith Murray, real quick. Keith, how's Detective Hansen, Steve Hansen, do there?
You know, he did fine. I think he's basically there to establish the crime scene, how they found it. There are some questions about what went on before he got there that you would think the state would have elicited through other witnesses. They may bring some other witnesses in out of turn to explain this machete and the arrow. Clearly somebody cut a path in there. But basically the defense looked like they were trying to center on the possibility that the state investigators somehow altered the crime scene, and in doing so may have destroyed some evidence because they were careless.
Okay. Keith, nice job. Keith Murray. Keith, what stands out to you? Obviously, a lot to go through here, a lot of evidence, and we're talking about the handling of that evidence. Your thoughts as we listen to this afternoon's testimony?
Sure. I mean, the state's going through its evidence very methodically, as you would expect. They're doing it in a sort of timeline fashion. First, they bring in the medical examiner who examined the remains on the scene, removed the remains, packaged them, sent them to Mr. Utz, who performed the initial medical examination. Then you have the state coming on and trying to show, you know, things were moved. There were things that were moved out of place before Hansen came on that he was unaware of. So you've got them, you know, kind of trying to make the case that maybe some evidence was destroyed. You got the state spending a lot of time on duct tape, and there's a lot to do with the duct tape in this case concerning the gas can, and you can forensically match it, and you know, duct tape is actually really good evidence.
Well, let's talk about the duct tape. Will the prosecution have to flat out say, okay, here's our theory, that little Caylee was chloroformed to knock her out, and then duct tape was put over her mouth and nose to suffocate and kill her? Are we going to hear it that detailed?
I think that's where they're going with it. The problem is the way the remains were found, there was just skeletal remains. There was no soft tissue. So the toxicology reports that came back showed no indication of chloroform. Maybe if there had been some soft tissue, we might have seen some indication of chloroform, but we just don't have that. So what you've got is this duct tape, and what they can get from the duct tape is the brand and the model. You know, I can't remember the manufacturer. It began with an H, but the duct tape that was found on the body, I believe, does match the duct tape that was found in the Anthony household. Sometimes hair and fiber gets caught up in the duct tape when it's being pulled off the roll. Another thing you can do is fracture match. Anytime you tear something in half, like a piece of paper, or tear off a piece of duct tape, you can always match one half of the fracture back to the other half of the fracture, that tear line, because it's an irregular thing and it's fairly random. I haven't seen any assertion in that case, and if somebody's torn off a piece of duct tape between the two, then you kind of lose that. But I think they're going to try to make a big case out of the fact that the same duct tape was found in the body that was found in the house.
Okay, and we know the defense, Jose Baez said in opening statements, follow the duct tape. I know his contention, at least early on, was, hey, George Anthony had access to the duct tape as well. Right, Keith?
Right. George Anthony used the duct tape to cover the opening on the gas can. Because I guess they had lost the cap, and we've seen that gas can because Casey keeps running out of gas and needs someone to bring gas to her, and there's the allegation that she stole the gas cans from the shed. So they're trying to link the tape to the gas can and the tape to the body and the gas can to the father.
Again, there it is. Duct tape to the mandible. Prosecution could be going with she put the tape over her mouth to kill little Caylee. Your take on that, Keith?
I mean, clearly the state's going to be making the case in their closing argument. You know, maybe some of the jurors are picking up on it already, that the tape is going from the body to the gas can to the Anthony household. It's the same brand, so that part of it's already established. What the defense is going to do is they're going to say, well, yeah, body, gas can, household, but who had access to the duct tape in the household? The father. That's part of their case that they stated at the in the opening statements. They believe the father's responsible. Father has access to the duct tape in the house.